Okay, so we are ready to begin Chapter 4. Chapter 4 is more solving linear equations and linear inequalities. So we're going to continue to solve these problems that we may encounter in our lives, and we're going to solve them by setting up different equations with an unknown that we call the variable. So we're going to continue to do that today, and we're going to be solving percent problems using equations. So we go to the store, something is a certain percent off, we want to know how much are we going to pay or how much are we going to save. We need to leave a tip at a restaurant, so how much of a tip do we need to leave? So we're going to be looking at these types of problems today. First thing I want you to do is read pages 182 through 184. There are some great examples in there, and they guide you through them very well as well. So we're going to be solving basic percent problems by translating them into equations. So we're going to create equations and then solve them. So what is a percent anyway? A percent literally means per cent or per 100. So when we say 8%, we mean 8 per 100 or 8 out of 100. And we know fractions are division problems. So if I say 8 out of 100, 8 divided by 100 is 0.08. So if I'm saying 8%, that's 0.08. If I'm saying 10%, 10 divided by 100 is 0.1. If I say 25%, 25 out of 100, 25 divided by 100 is 0.25. So you'll see as we go, when we're talking about a percent, when we want to write that as a decimal, we just move the decimal 2 spaces to the left because we are dividing by 100. So remember to find an actual percent. We take the percent that we'll call P of a given number, we'll say that given number is Q, and we multiply Q by P. So if I say 14% of 65, the way I can figure that out is I take 14%, so 14 out of 100, 14 divided by 100 is 0.14, multiply it by that given number, the 65. So 14% of 65 is 9.1. So again, 14% of, notice we're representing that with multiplication, the given number 65 is, math is equals 9.1. So keep this in mind. And again, where this guy comes from is just 14 out of 100, 14 per 100, again, that percent. Okay, so keep that in mind, and notice what happened here. Percent of was multiplication, given number is, and then what that actually is once we find the percent. Because that's what we're getting ready to do. So, when we look at 9% of what number? So first let's look at 9%. 9% is 9 out of 100, and 9 divided by 100 is 0.09. So 0.09 of, so that'll be multiplication. What number? We don't know what the number is, so let's just call it X, is equals 207. So that's how we're going to take these and translate them into an equation, and now we just simplify and solve. So 0.09 times X equals 207. How do I get X by itself? I divide by 0.09. 0.09 divided by 0.09 is 1. So I get X equals, I believe, I want to say it's 2300. Yes. So that means 9% of 2300 is 207. So for example, let's say you make $2,300 and you get 9% commission. So how much are you actually going to get? It would be an additional $207. So, a way to check this, I can take 2,300 and multiply it by 0.09. Oh good, I get 207. So 9% of 2,300 is 207. So let's look at another one of these problems. What percent of 5.3 is 1.59? So what percent? We don't know the percentage. A couple of different ways to look at this. I'm going to show you one way here, and I'll show you another way in class. But what percent? That's my variable we don't know. Of. How do I represent of in math? How do I translate that? That's going to be multiplication. Of 5.3. So what percent of, and then 5.3 is, equals 1.59. Again, I've set up a nice easy equation. Simplify. P times 5.3 is 5.3P equals 1.59. How do I get P by itself? We divide. 5.3 times 5.3 is 5.3P equals 1.59. How do I get P by itself? We divide. 5.3 times 5.3 is 5.3P equals 1.59. How do I get P by itself? We divide. 5.3 times 5.3 is 5.3P equals 1.59. How do I get P by itself? We divide. to undo this multiplication is 5.3 times p, so I want to undo that to get p by itself. We know 5.3 divided by 5.3 is just 1, so we're left with 1 times p, which is just p. 1.59 divided by 5.3, and we get 0.3. So here's the thing. It's not 0.3%. What I still have to do with this is take this now to the actual percentage. So if it's 0.3, what did that mean? That means that we took 30 and actually divided it by 100. So to figure out what this is as a percent, where the percent is something out of 100, we take this 0.3 and we multiply it by 100 because we want to get back to what is that percent. So that'll be 30%. So what percent of 5.3 is 1.59? 30% of 5.3 is 1.59. So just realize at this step you have to multiply by 100 to actually figure out what that percent is. Okay, so 0.3 is the same thing as saying this is the same thing as saying 30%. All right, so let's look at a couple of some word problems here. You go to dinner with 6 of your friends for parties of 4 or more. So if you have 4 or more people in your group, an 18% gratuity, which is just a tip, is added to the bill. Before the tip, the meal costs $58.50. Find the total cost of the meal and the tip. So we need the total cost of the meal. So that means we need to know how much did we spend on the meal, and then how much did we add as far as the tip goes. We don't know what the tip is until we figure out that 18% of the total meal. So the way we can set this up, the total meal is going to cost the meal, but we have to add on the percent, the 18% of that meal. So plus 18% of the meal, and that'll give me my total cost. So the meal plus the tip, basically. So the total cost is the cost of the meal. So I'm just going to say this is T equals the cost of the meal they told us was $58.50 plus 18% of the meal. Well, how do I write 18%? 18 divided by 100, which is 0.18 of, represents multiplication, the meal. The meal is $58.50. And maybe if you want to represent this with parentheses as well, so you don't accidentally think that's a decimal point, that'd be good. So now, again, we just now have to simplify. My unknown is already basically solved for. It's just a matter of taking the right side and simplifying it. So $58.50 plus 0.18 times $58.50, and we get $10.53. So my total bill for our party is $69.03. So again, how much was the meal? And then you have to add on the tip. It's 18% of the meal, because if we just say 18%, well, 18% of what? So it's 18% of the cost of the meal. Add that together to get the total amount. And again, I'll show you kind of another way to approach this in class as well. So what was the amount of the tip? Well, we know the total bill was $69.03. The meal cost $58.50. So how do we figure out how much additional we paid or how much that tip was? We will simply take the $69.03 and subtract $58.50. So the total tip was $10.53. So that's how much that waiter or waitress made off of our group. All right, so now you go to the store, you want a pair of shoes that you've been eyeing for quite some time. So a pair of shoes you've been wanting normally costs $119. You see they are on sale, they're now 20% off. What is that sale price? So what would you actually pay if you want to buy these? So how much will you actually save if you do decide to buy them? Because you may want to figure out how much would I save, and then I'll determine if I'm going to go ahead and buy them. So to figure this out, we need to know how much are we going to pay. So the sale price is going to be the original price. And remember, this is a discount, so this is a percent off of the original amount. So it's the original price minus the discount. So we're looking for that sale price. So I will just call this S. So for sale price. The original price was $119 minus the discount is 20% off. Well, 20% off of what? It's 20% off of the original amount, which is 19. So 20%, 0.20 of 119. So again, of is going to be your multiplication. So the sale price is 119 minus 0.2 times 119 is 23.8. So 119 minus 23.8, and those shoes now cost $95.20. So the sale price is $95.20. So how much did they cost originally minus that discount price? It was 20% off of the original, so 20% off of the 119. So think about how much did you actually save? You saved that $23.80. So now you can say, hey, I'm going to save almost $24. Is that worth the purchase? Do I want to buy these now? So that could help you make a decision there. But let's think about this kind of in another way, and this kind of gets us ready to go into class tomorrow to kind of start to look at some of these problems maybe in a different way. What percent of the original cost are you paying? So we knew it was 20% off, but so what percent of the original are we paying? Well, if we pay the whole amount, we're paying 100%, right? But we're not paying the whole amount. We're paying 20% less than the whole amount. So 100% is what we start with. We're taking away 20%, so we are actually paying 80% of the total price. So the original amount was 100% minus the 20%. So we are paying 80% of the original cost. All right, last thing you got to do in your book, you're going to complete numbers 1 through 5 on page 184. I will check that tomorrow, and we'll do some more of these problems in tomorrow class.